The second half of tonight's homework deals with rational expressions, and we'll be either multiplying or dividing rational expressions. So these are similar problems to what you'll end up seeing. And so the first thing I would do on this first problem is when you see you have a fraction and then one that's not a fraction, write this second one as a fraction. So just put a fraction bar and over 1. And then what we do is we write this, since it's being multiplied, as one fraction. And so I just factor as I go. So 4 and p are already factors, so I'll just rewrite those. But now I see a trinomial, and so this is going to end up factoring as two binomials. It's going to end up being a p minus 7 and a p plus 2. They had to be opposite signs because they multiply to make a negative 14, and they subtract. The outside and inside terms subtract to make that negative 5. Down at the bottom here, take out that common factor of 8. So pull out that 8 and then do some division. So always look for common factors first, and then you'll see how things factor from there. In this case, there's no other factoring once you take out that common factor of 8. And so what we're left with is that p plus 2. So we go ahead and do some canceling. The p plus 2's are going to cancel. And 4 goes into 8 2 times. And so all we have left over is this p times by p minus 7. All over a 2. Now you could write it that way, or you could end up multiplying it out and get p squared minus 7p all over 2. Either way would be the same exact answer. So on this next one, similar, except now we have two fractions. And so we're going to do it the same way since we're multiplying. Write this as one big fraction. So take that x minus 1, which is already factored, and write it right next to the x squared minus 5x plus 6. But before we just rewrite that, let's go ahead and factor it. Factors to two binomials, x minus 3 and an x minus 2. See, the two numbers, the last terms had to multiply to make that positive 6, but they add to make this negative 5, so it does end up working out. The denominator of that first fraction is another trinomial that factors to two binomials. Again, we have to have two minus signs because the last term multiplies to make a positive, and the middle term means that the outside and inside terms add to make negative 4, so they have to be both negative signs. The next term, next denominator here, has a common factor of 2, so pull out that 2 and do some division and see what's left over. Well, you got an x minus 2, so we can go ahead and take out some common factors. X minus 2's will cancel. X minus 1's cancel, x minus 3's cancel, and everything canceled on top. But when things cancel, really you're left with 1. And when you multiply 1 times a number, you end up with 1. So that's why 1's on top. And what we have left on the bottom is 2. 2 times 1 makes 2, so 1/2 is our answer. Well, the last type that you'll see from this section is a division problem. So you got to remember to change it to multiplication, but take the reciprocal. So I'm going to change it to multiplication, take out some common factors as I go, and I'll take the reciprocal. So I'm going to take out a 6x. That's going to go in the bottom of the fraction. And so what's left over is an x minus 3. Now, I rewrite, instead of putting the x squared minus 9 on top, remember I got to take the reciprocal. So I'm going to go ahead and factor this trinomial, and it factors to an x plus 3 and an x plus 1. This time they're both plus signs because they multiply to make a positive, but they add to make a positive this time. Down at the bottom here, I got a 12x squared that goes into each of these terms, so I'll pull that on the outside. So write that underneath the 6x. You got, again, that 12x squared. Now, the common mistake is people just write x, but that's not right. You see, 12x squared times x just makes 12x to the third. We don't have the plus 12x squared if you just have x. So you've got to write down plus 1. You see, the 12x squared over the 12x squared makes 1. They have the same factors, so they divide evenly, and you get 1 left over. Well, now we got to rewrite this numerator down in the bottom, but in the factored form. So it's going to be an x plus 3 times by an x minus 3. So the only binomial that factors as two binomials is a difference of squares, and that's what you have here. Perfect square and a perfect square with a minus sign in between. Well, the x plus 3's cancel, x minus 3's, x plus 1's, so a lot of canceling. 6 goes into 12 2 times, and this x will take out one of the x's on top, and, well, from the bottom, leaving us with 1x on the bottom. Well, everything canceled out on top, so you still have this 1, so we'll rewrite this as 1 over 2x. That is our answer. Well, one more problem, another division problem. So again, just change it to multiplication and take the reciprocal. So let's start with this x squared minus 9. Now that's a difference of squares, factors to an x minus 3 and an x plus 3. And then on the top of the fraction, we're going to move this 16x on top, so put times by 16x. And now we go ahead and go to the denominator. It's a trinomial that ends up factoring as x plus 3 and an x plus 3. And then we have this numerator that will take out a common factor of 4x. So pull out that 4x, put that on the outside, times by 4x. And then we go ahead and do the division. We've got an x minus 3. So we can go ahead and cancel out some common factors. So the x plus 3 cancels. Got the x minus 3 canceling. This x will cancel out this x, and 4 goes into 16 4 times. So what's left on top? Well, we got a 4. On the bottom, we got the x plus 3. That is our answer. Well, those are some of the problems that you'll see on tonight's homework. Good luck.